I did a video the other day labeled Learning Disability or Engineer. And it was a little bit about some of my own problems that I had in junior high and high school. And that video, I made it because I'm hoping that there's someone else out in the world who feels lost like I did, and maybe would be encouraged by that, or maybe you're a parent and you have a child who is like that and you're wondering, how to reach them, how to help them. And so that was the motivation for this. And this is a second one kind of along the same lines. And it's also a type of, let's say, very loosely spoken, a learning disability that I had growing up, and to some extent still gives me trouble today as I try and communicate with other people. And I would summarize it by saying I am more philosophical than the average person. And that doesn't make me better. It just makes me different. And one of what I want to hone in on here in terms of philosophy is, it says, a systematic study of general and fundamental questions. Now, philosophers are typically looking into things like existence and reason and knowledge and all of that. But I want to explain how the philosopher type of person struggles to interact with the world, and why. And it's because they are asking more general and fundamental questions. And so I just want to provide two quick examples and a real life story. First, the real life story. So my daughter has become very, very, very specific and precise with her language. She is struggling with phrases like, all right, I'll see you in 10 minutes, because we don't know that we'll see one another in 10 minutes. It might be longer than that, it might be shorter than that, or plans may change. And so even when I ask my daughter, like, hey, would you like to go for a bike ride? Instead of saying yes or no, because she knows that she wants to go for a bike ride, she's actually been saying something else like, let's go do that. And so as my daughter wrestles with these general questions like, how does one know if one likes something? Or how does one know if one loves somebody? Or how does one know that they're going to see somebody else in 10 minutes? It reminded me a lot of myself and the questions that I have in life that I wrestle with, and how sometimes I can have miscommunication with other people because I'm trying to look at things at a deeper level than what's necessary. And I want to be clear that deep in this sense does not mean better. So just two examples. The first example is regarding sharpness. So this is a set of knives that came with my wife's Thermomix, which is a type of blender. And on the box, they were advertised as razor sharp. Now, they are not razor sharp. In fact, you actually have to work hard to cut yourself with them. And so I would not say that these are dull, but it's not really accurate to call them razor sharp. Now, are they sharp enough for the task at hand? Yeah, I think they are. But are they sharp? And therein lies the question, well, what is sharpness? At what point is something considered sharp, and at what point is it considered dull? And in philosophy, a friend of mine taught me that this is called the heap problem. Basically, at what point does a pile of rocks become a heap of rocks? And there was some philosopher who sort of made himself known based on that question. So one thing I wanted to show is if you look at a razor blade off of like what you would use to shave your face, your legs, if you zoom in enough and you look at it at almost like the molecular level, you'll see these horrible jagged edges that don't look anything at all like sharp. And you can see this if you Google razor blade electron microscope, you'll find some examples like this. And it's absolutely incredible to realize that something that is sharp enough to shave your face is actually full of rolled over edges and jagged edges. And yet we would consider razor blades to be sharp. In fact, we even use them as a reference point to say like razor sharp. And the philosopher in me, and the philosopher maybe in one of your children or something like that, would really just question, well, what does it mean to be sharp? And what is, like, a dull razor blade is still way sharper than this thing. And so how does that work? And one of the things that I've learned to ask is, like, how do we define sharpness? So, like, is it sharp enough to cut paper? Okay, that's one level of sharpness. Is it sharp enough to, shave hair? That's another level of sharpness. And also, like, what level of sharpness is required for this particular tool to do its job effectively? What's the purpose of this tool? And once the tool is dull enough that it can no longer accomplish its purpose, that's when we begin to use the word dull. But if you take yourself out of that context and you just try and use that same sharp, dull terminology in a different area, then all of a sudden it doesn't hold up, because this, even when brand new, was duller than a dull razor blade, and they considered it sharp. Okay, last thing I want to show, and this is just kind of funny, but so Snap-on is a high-end manufacturer of tools. If you go to their website, it says that they believe in uncompromising quality, fearless innovation, and rapid continuous improvement. So if you were to ask Snap-on who they are, that's what they would tell you. Now, they sell a set of screwdrivers for $203. Now, I've owned and used these. I don't really like them, but this is a very expensive set of screwdrivers. It's maybe one of the most expensive set of screwdrivers in the whole world. Now, there's another company called Vera from Germany, and they make, in my opinion, equally high quality screwdrivers. In fact, I like these even more. And yet look at the price, $30 instead of $203. So basically 1/7 of the cost. And what's incredible is that this company doesn't even say anything about quality. They don't even describe to you that they're selling you something of high quality. Now, if you work your way down the ladder, at some point you get to Harbor Freight, which is basically, Harbor Freight is basically, along with the dollar store, offering the cheapest, most inexpensive tools out there. And yet, look at how they advertise themselves: quality tools. And I would basically disagree with that, because if Harbor Freight is claiming that they sell quality tools, and Snap-on is claiming that they sell quality tools, yet there's a huge variance in terms of quality, well, that word becomes diluted, and in some ways it becomes useless. In fact, I was at the dollar store recently with my children, and basically the crappiest products you can imagine on earth are sitting inside of labels and boxes that say highest quality. Or another example, I think it was Jerry Seinfeld, who said, like, you can't just find regular strength Tylenol anymore. Everything's extra strength. It's like every manufacturer is trying to convince you that they're at the top of the heap. And if you go to someplace like AutoZone, they also are selling things, and they basically tell you that this is, professional, chrome vanadium steel for strength and durability. And yet anyone who's used these tools would know that basically, like, this is some of the worst steel out there. And yet no one really is being honest. Manufacturers, at least, are not really being honest with their clientele and customers about what level they're really offering. And so for those of us who are parents, and you're trying to teach your children about the world, and your children ask you, like, well, hey, Daddy, what does the word quality mean? And you begin to describe that. And then they go to the dollar store and they see, oh, high quality. And you sort of have to teach them, like, well, that's a lie. Or maybe that's high quality for $1, but it's not high quality for $203. And if you're the kind of person who's asking questions like that, or if you have a child who's asking questions like that, I would just encourage you that you're not alone. And I would encourage you as a parent to nurture and foster that in your children. The world needs philosophers. They need people who are asking a more general question. And it also helps explain some of the things that you see in the world that seem so odd. Like, how is it that a $30 set of screwdrivers has 4.8 stars, but also a $5 set of screwdrivers has 4.8 stars on Amazon? Well, one of the reasons for that is because when people only spend $5, they're expecting a certain type of quality. And when that quality is very low compared to this, but still high enough for $5, they're satisfied. And yet, you can't really use reviews to prove that one set of screwdrivers is better than another, because it's not just quality versus quality, it's quality over cost versus quality over cost. And yeah, as a father, I'm going through this phase with my daughter where she's asking very basic and general questions, And it has been challenging, but it's also very exciting to see that my daughter is not just willing to take things at face value. She's not willing to just take manufacturers and the world at face value. And she's, to some extent, scrutinizing and questioning and investigating what is being said and what those things really mean, because there's this gap between what we say and what we mean. Anyhow, that was on my heart a little bit. Again, I had a really rough time in school, and I was extremely discouraged. And when I got into the real world and I dealt with a wider swath of people and found some philosophers and found some engineers, I found that I really fit in. And so I'm really just making this video as a bit of a journal entry, if you will, as well as an encouragement to other parents who are out there, or maybe you yourself are watching this and find that you kind of don't fit in the world. You're either too zoomed in or too zoomed out. And I just want to encourage you that you're not alone and that the world needs those skills that you have. And I hope you put them to good use. All right, folks, take care.